Hello and welcome to episode 371 of the video show. Today I'm joined by Stephen Mills from Traphic Agency. He is a graphic designer but also a motion graphic designer. So that's what I really wanted to talk to him about. So he co-runs a motion graphics and graphic design agency. So where that works is with like normal videos, I shoot videos, but then there's sort of animation that goes alongside that. So the animated idents that play at the start of the videos and all sorts of like graphic design that you see in videos, that's what they specialise in. And that's something that I do offer, but it's kind of like I download that from a website and then I edit it to fit in. But they create something from scratch that purely fits in with your company's branding. So if you want something that purely fits in with your company's branding, Traphic Agency is the people to talk to, and that's really why I wanted to talk to him and get him on the show today. So here's my conversation with Stephen. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so let's start again. Just tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do and about Traphic as an agency.
Okay, so essentially Traphic is a motion-focused design agency. We help brands move into like the audio-visual spectrum. We break them out of that kind of static brand, traditional sense of like branding. Like when companies go and get a rebrand or their brand guidelines drawn up, they don't necessarily think about like motion graphics and how their brand might enter the kind of video world, which is obviously like becoming more and more problematic, or not problematic, but it should be more and more what people should be considering now, providing that the majority of online content now is video.
Yeah.
And like there's so many stats online that show that like products and services that are marketed through video and through the use of like video platforms, they get an increase of revenue and growth. Like I don't think anyone's really questioning it anymore. It's like it's kind of a no-brainer. You don't really have to throw the stats out there anymore.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that they're either already doing it or they want to be doing it better, or they're like, oh, I really should be doing it because like I'm missing a trick. So from our perspective, that's quite good. So yeah, but it's interesting to hear from you that they're not really thinking about, oh, I've done this rebrand, how are my videos going to fit into that? So from my perspective, a lot of the time, if they need something motion graphicsy, I download a template and try and fit it in as much as I can. So I try and edit it like to fit what they're doing. But a lot of the time, it's just sort of a bodge job, really. Like it looks good because it's a template, and like obviously it's good enough. Like it's good enough for what they need. But if they wanted something that actually really fit and was perfect and like fit into everything else, like how does that conversation start with you?
Yeah, one example is just having a traditional pitch deck, which is a 20-page or 20 slide deck with loads of information in. Obviously, it's boring. It's a bit monotonous. It has to be like presented in person because you've got to be there to like talk about the slides and stuff. We condense that down into like a 2-minute video, which could be easily sent out to investors, to potential customers, and just gave a bit of clarity on the product. And then after that, the client could then say like any questions, and expand on it if there's anything unsolved. We've also made explainer videos for a sustainable period product, which like essentially their problem was the women that were looking at buying the product were looking at it and thinking, hang on, this seems a bit complex. So we essentially made a video that kind of like explained about the product, explained how easy it was to use, and we did it in their style. which we built on the existing brand.
Yeah.
So, but like moving forward, I think we are offering like essential graphics, like you were saying about the templates before, like templates that aren't just something that you just buy in, but something that's completely bespoke and unique to your brand. So how does your text animate on? How does each video start and end, like title cards and things like that? I came across the brand Horton's property. They're a Leicester-based, I think they're Leicester, but like Midlands-based estate agent. And when you look at their videos, they've got like their motion graphics tied in so well with their brand guidelines, and it escalates the quality of the video quite, like it just looks very professional.
Yeah.
And I think moving forward, a lot more brands are going to kind of need that to reinforce their identities, really.
Yeah. So like one of the things that I ask for when I start working with someone is their brand guidelines. So I say like, I need, like before we start working together, I need your brand guidelines. So like the PDF of whatever their guidelines are, logos and like color schemes and stuff like that. But if they had like video stuff that was ready to go, I'd be so impressed. But like, right, you need to incorporate this into the video rather than me sort of making something up or like downloading a template and putting something together. If they had it already, I'll be blown away by that. So it'd be,
the PT example is quite interesting because, like, you know, that is, we've set it up so like each muscle group can be turned on with sliders. So like to show different muscle groups, that the exercises that she's presenting to the audience on TikTok or Instagram stories, she can have like this little template of a muscle heat map come up on the screen and clarify the muscle group she's targeting. So things like that, like it's stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think would be useful. Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, actually are quite useful.
Yeah. So it's probably things that they maybe don't even realize that they need, but just I think if they had a conversation with someone that was video related, they would be like, oh, that would be, if they started to think in that way, then that's when they would like, oh yeah, that would make things a lot easier. And I think that's where it fits in. Are there like typical problems that people come to you with? Like, you know, you mentioned the sustainable period product. I think a lot of that is they would be having a problem that people were feeling a bit intimidated by their product because they didn't know enough about it. So for example, like I've just spoken to someone it will be the previous episode to this, but she works as like a social media content producer for an eco shop. So it's like no packaging shop. And for me, I'd be intimidated by that because I'm not sure how it works when I go in. Mm-hmm. So it's just about, I need to have my questions answered before I go in, before I feel comfortable enough to go into that shop. So what were the questions that this company asked you and stepped through with you when they came to you?
Well, I guess really it was just like, we need something to put on our website as like a header, to increase conversion rates of sales, basically. I think there was a survey conducted by the client saying like, you know, what puts you off, basically. And it was the fact that like there was this mystery about how they were used. So, you know, like for us, I mean, it's not that like, what's that saying about like hammers and nails? Like when you've only got a hammer, everything looks like a nail or something like that. It's not the case where like, just because we're motion graphics focused, we feel like the best thing to do is to make like motion graphics videos for everyone. But, and I think like a lot of companies, I think for like 80 of companies, the best thing they can do is just come on camera and just like speak on Instagram Reels or TikTok Reels or whatever, and just like that human face that does most of the selling and conversations. But with this brand in particular, and the like sensitive subject matter of it, it was kind of like nice to do it using like illustrations, because it like softened the subject, and it fitted in with all the like eco kind of messaging that they were sending out. So I think essentially for that problem, it was like the perfect solution. But yeah, I wouldn't say to like everyone that came to us with like a pitch or something, it would be like, oh yeah, you need us to make like a 2-minute video for you, because a lot of stuff can be solved just through coming on camera and talking to your audience. But in those cases, in those 20% of cases that need the motion graphics to bolster the message, that's why we're here.
Yeah, I get it. I think, and that's a really good example of how that would work, because yeah, it does need to be a bit of a softer message and probably a little bit more humorous as well, just to like help it along, I guess. Yeah. Going back to like how you got into the industry, was it always something you were interested in?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's exciting. I think like the tools excite us. The like multi dimensions have excited like me and my business partner as well. Like the idea that you're not just putting a graphic to something, you're putting like emotion, animation, a sound. Like it goes so much deeper than just kind of like your standard like branding. We've both got experience, like past experience in like the branding world, and I think like yeah, it just feeds us creatively a lot more than that static graphic design that we started with. Not saying, and that's like yeah, like being a graphic designer is like, you know, the foundation it needs to be there. Like the foundation, the graphic design is so important, but like being a motion designer just feels nice to us.
No, I
So
get it,
yeah,
yeah.
that's essentially why we deviated and decided to go for motion graphics.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think like talking to graphic designers and motion graphics people, it's just like, it's something that I sort of feel like I could do, but then if I tried to do it, it would just come out looking like, oh, that looks rubbish compared to like what you could do or what a graphic designer could do. So it's like something I can really appreciate from like a video point of view, but it's just probably not in my skill set without hours and hours and hours and hours of practice. So yeah, it's just really nice to like work alongside people like you on that point of view. Like, and then going back to what I was thinking, I just thought of another question as well. In terms of like time scales of when people work with you, what's like a typical length that people can expect when they start working with you? And I know it depends on the project, but yeah, I think people would want to know, like, how does that work, and how do you communicate that with them?
Yeah, so I'd say typical projects like explainer videos and that kind of thing, you're talking about conservatively like 6 to 8 weeks sometimes. Like probably could get something done in a month, but like
That'd be flat out, yeah.
we'd be flat out. And as well, it's important to reflect on these things, like do at each stage of the process, like leaving enough time for it to settle. And like, because sometimes you've probably experienced this, like you'll do something and then you'll think, oh, this is great. Then you go to bed and wake up the next day and being like, what was I thinking last night? That is terrible. It is absolutely diabolical what I made last night. So we work with the clients. We essentially get them to like pitch to us, say if it is explain a video or condensing like a pitch deck or something like that, a value proposition. And then we work with them to come up with a script.
Yeah.
That script is then obviously like batted back and forth between us and them. Things have changed and you've got that whole process. And then after that, it's a case of like producing a storyboard and a style frame, which then, that takes time to get in line all the elements with their current branding. You don't want the video to be a completely standalone thing from like the rest of their brand and everything like that. So there's the actual production and sound design of it. So like there's 3 or 4 like key stages of each video. So it's quite lengthy. Like I think people underestimate how much time and energy goes into like just these really small videos.
Yeah, I see. It's interesting what you. There's 2 sort of things I took from what you just said. One was like when you look at stuff and you go to bed and you come back in the morning and you think, oh yeah, it looks awful. I've had that. Yeah. I don't know exactly what you mean. And then secondly, yeah, the time it takes. Like I think I can appreciate how long it would take, because the way that I work in terms of creating videos, it's very much like it's quite a quick process in terms of it needs to be quick. So if I'm at an event, like it's got to be like boom, 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 because things are happening live. Or even if we're filming interviews, we only got a set amount of time, so we've got to get through a set amount of people. So from my perspective, I can do that because I've sort of built in a way of actually making that work, and I can physically do that. So it can be quick. But then in terms of what you're doing, it does take time, because you've got to get it to a certain point where it looks really great, and that does take work, and it takes a lot of effort to get it there. And you've mentioned like the pre-production stuff there. From my perspective, in terms of video, the more you do in pre-production, the easier it is on the day of shooting.
Yeah, so, 100%.
Like for example, we filmed some interviews last week where we had to interview like 20 odd people throughout the day, and it was just non-stop, boom, next one. But we were able to do that because we spent so much time in pre-production connecting with the people that we wanted to interview at this event. We knew they were going to be there, and it was just getting them over to me on the day, and how we were going to do that, what questions we were going to ask, and there was like 3 sets of questions for 3 different types of people that were there, and I knew instantly when that person stepped in front of me what questions I needed to ask. So that all was down to pre-production. So we were able to do it really quickly. But I guess there's no shortcuts in what you're doing.
I guess, well, there's things that certainly help. For example, like, really any problems or issues that we might have in the whole production of the video needs to be ironed out at either at the style frame and animatic. Animatics are like when we put the style frames, not the style frames, but like the storyboards together is just like a janky kind of animation to get a rough feel of how the video is going to look and flow and be animated. But everything by that point needs to be like seen by the client. They go, that's perfect. And then we get started on production. But if we're in production and then there's a change that needs to be made, it's much more harder to like reverse engineer it and stuff. For instance, like if we're going to put music to a piece, say it's like a show reel for a company or something like that, we need to do that or know about doing that before we start to produce it, because I'm sure you're aware with like video editing, you need to like get the footage to match up with like the instrumentals or like whatever you're putting with it. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting. In terms of like your actual agency as well, how many people is there like within the agency?
Yeah, it's so this is kind of like currently out for discussion, and me and my business partner have been like, not how many people are in the agency. We know how many people are in the agency, but like I guess who we actually are. I think more and more we're leaning towards like we probably should be calling ourselves a studio than an agency, because essentially it's just me and my business partner working. And then if we need anything extra doing, like a 3D animator or because we can do some of that, but not, like it's a whole different ball game once you get into the, 3D animation.
So you've got people that you call on for that.
Yeah, so we've got people that we call on, or like, if we need filmers to work alongside, we can, we're always trying to form new relationships to get like trusted people around us that we can just go, look, like we've got a project we need you to give us a hand with. That, and obviously that benefits people because we're managing the freelancers for them, rather than like, some marketing agencies who might come to us for like motion graphics and some video production stuff. They're coming to us because they haven't got the in-house team, or they don't have enough like work coming in constantly to warrant paying someone like 25, 30 grand, like 40 grand. Like it depends on the level, I guess. But like, yeah, we essentially step in there and then like manage the whole process and supply and fill in the gaps, I guess. Like,
yeah, because I was only sort of asking that just to see like how you found like growing it and building it up from throughout however long you've been doing it. How long have you been running for?
So yeah, we've been going 18 months.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like the idea is to grow. We would like to like something we've been getting a lot of, especially recently, is could we handle like the full marketing thing? Like people come to us for like one thing and then they're like, oh yeah, it'd be great if like you could do video production, the motion graphics, the branding, and then we want all of our posts like scheduled, queued up and everything like that. So it'd be nice if we could like work with someone who's really competent, like a media buyer, or like, someone that knows their stuff within the marketing spectrum. And in that way we could grow into like a bit more of an agency. But at the moment we're batting in between, like, are we a studio, are we an agency, do we just be the guys that supply the marketing agencies or other people with the motion design stuff and the videos, or do we go one step further? And it's difficult. It's difficult because we're getting requests all the time.
Yeah, and it takes time as well. Like I've been doing this for like 11 years, and it's just, do I want to do that, or do I want to just keep doing what I'm doing and like it will just go its own way, or do I want to like make it into like an agency with other people, or how do I want to grow it? So I'm in that process at the moment, but yeah, it's interesting just to talk to you about that as well, just see where you're at with it. So if people want to get in touch with you and just find out how you can help in terms of motion graphics, explain a video, stuff like that, what's the best way to get in touch?
Just drop us an email, really. Mine's Stephen@traphicagency.com and my business partner's James@traphicagency.com. We're both always there to reply to stuff. So yeah.